Hey, what's going on? You are listening to the Road Trip podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Tom. What's up, Tom? How are you today?
Doing great, man. Again, happy to be here.
Good, good. Are you excited for the guest we have on today?
Dude, I'm hyped. I'm hyped. I can't wait to get into this.
This is gonna be cool. Yeah, we have on Brandon Morrison of liftbigeatbig.com, and he's got a very interesting background. He's well versed in a lot of the different strength sports, and he's really into strongman. And so we're gonna be talking about that because I've always kind of admired the strongman sport, and it's pretty cool. Unfortunately, like the lightest weight class is like 200 and something pounds, so I'm not very well cut out for it. But anyways, what's going on, Brandon? How are you today?
Pretty good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure. So let's first talk about your background. When did you start getting into into strength training and into strongman? How did that start?
Well, I mean, it kind of started the way I think most people start, just looking at bodybuilding magazines and wanting to look like that, and thinking if you eat chicken and broccoli and rice, you'll look like the guy on the cover. So I did that for about 6 months, and I did CrossFit for about a year. And then I saw photos of large men from the 70s, and I realized I don't want to look like a CrossFitter. I want to look like that. So about 5, 6 months after that, I started training for strongman. So about 2.5 years ago, I started actually lifting, and then about a year and a half ago, competing in strongman.
Okay, cool. And that's like, competing in strongman is pretty demanding. Like I imagine that you have to have some pretty solid. Well, I mean, the first question to kind of roll off of is like, how does one train for something like strongman, because it's so dynamic, and a lot of the lifts are different than going to the gym and lifting a barbell. You're lifting stuff like stones and logs, and so how would one even prepare for a strongman competition?
Well, that's a pretty good question. And first off, the men's lightest weight class is now 150. So it's 150 to 175, 175 to 200. So
Oh,
uh,
I'm set.
Take that excuse off the table, Greg.
Yeah, there we go. I can be at the top of that weight class, 175.
yeah,
You own it.
Yeah.
it's like strongman fitness. So it's a little bit lighter. It's we get 5, 6 reps on some things, whereas they get closer to 20. So it's more about when you get tired versus can I actually lift the weight or not. But
Hmm.
uh, getting started in strongman and training for it, most of us train Olympic lifts, bodybuilding movements, and power lifts a couple days a week. I train 4 days a week, so I do those things 3 days a week. Um, and then there's one day a week called event day where you do strongman specific stuff. So the odd object lifting, carrying things from A to B to C and back. Um, on like if you have a press day or a deadlift day, we'll do some strongman style pressing. So maybe log pressing or axle deadlifts, stuff like that. But it's not really the sport where you can just train the cool events all the time because they're so taxing. You would explode. You would explode on the inside if you try to do events for all of your training.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like doing those big because I mean this strongman training, it's a series of multiple events, each of which must be brutal. And I guess it's a lot different than powerlifting or weightlifting, in that a lot of these events last an extended period of time, and so there's a big conditioning element too. So it's pretty. It sounds like a pretty brutal event.
Yeah, a lot of people look at some strongmen and talk shit about them and wonder how they can walk up a flight of stairs or whatever. But if you can run with 1,000 pounds on your back, you can probably handle some stairs okay. So it is a big difference between weightlifting and powerlifting, and strongman is weightlifting and powerlifting is designed around 3 attempts at a 1 rep lift for bench, squat, deadlift, or snatch and clean and jerk. So in strongman, we have 5 events. There's usually some sort of press event, meaning clean and press it for reps in a minute. There's usually a carry event or two, whether it's farmer walks, yoke, Husafell stone, sandbag carry. Hopefully, the majority of the time is a deadlift event. I usually like those. Um, there might be one kind of odd event that you don't really think about, and then there's usually stones. And stones are my favorite for sure.
Okay, cool. And so, you mentioned how you're training 4 days per week. One day is more event specific stuff, and then the 3 other days are focused on going to the gym and lifting. So which conventional lifts do you find are the most applicable to strongman? Like which are the lifts where if you get them strong in the gym, you're gonna be better suited for strongman? And I'm sure that these lifts that apply to strongman are going to be very like great lifts for building real world strength and athleticism as well.
Yeah, people talk a lot about functional strength, but what's really functional is being able to lift a lot of weight. So I think they like to say they want to be functionally strong as an excuse to not work hard. Because I don't remember the last time picking up a 375-pound stone didn't help me pick up something odd in the real world when I was moving houses or something. So I think the squat is the king of exercises in the sense that you can do it a little more often than deadlifting, but when it comes to strongman, I think the most applicable, if you had to pick one, which I would like to pick three, but if I had to pick one, the deadlift for me would definitely be the most applicable to strongman because you need to get the hamstring and posterior strength, and you also got to learn how to build up your erectors and your upper back strength. Because if you don't have a strong upper back, you're not going to be good at any strength sport. It's kind of like having weak hips. So, like one of my training partners, he deadlifts. He's the only guy I know that does it, but he's the only guy I know that is consistently PRing. He deadlifts 2 to 4 times a week, usually above 85%.
Wow.
Man.
How does he handle that deadlifting so frequently? Is he just more genetically cut out for a higher frequency, or does he have a specific approach that allows him to kind of do it more often?
Well, he does different types of deadlifts. He does block pulls with the bar set a couple inches below the knee. He'll do sumo deadlifts one day. He'll do conventional deadlifts the other day. He's going through a shoulder injury right now, but he's not really deadlifting any more than he normally would. I think he's just genetically gifted for deadlifting to be able to do that response because I've never seen anybody else do it.
Right. Okay. So just a minute ago or so, you mentioned that the deadlift is definitely the most important for strongman, having that ability to pull heavy weight off the ground. Because I'm sure that would carry over to like lifting anything off the ground, really. And then, so if you had to pick 3 movements, what would the other 2 be?
If I had to pick a gym movement that is not a strongman lift, I would probably pick Zercher squats, and I would probably pick either incline bench or push press.
Okay, nice. And so Zercher squats are when you have the barbell like in the crook of your elbow, kind of supporting it up like that.
Yep. That's really good, especially if you have a bad back or if you're injured. A lot of people look at that lift and say, oh my gosh, my hernia is popping out just looking at that. But really, it's a great lift that's designed to put almost all of the lift on your hips and on your quads and on your hamstrings. So it's a really good lift if you're recovering from a back problem or something. And it's great because it helps build up the hip strength and the leg strength you need to load stones. I think that's why my stone loads have gone up. I just hit a 200 kilo Zercher squat, and I'm going to be attempting a 190 kilo stone this weekend. So I'm hoping that all the Zercher squats have helped that.
Damn, and do you use any?
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's That's 440, 440 pounds, I believe. Uh,
420. For 200 is for. Oh, you mean for the Zercher?
the Zercher, yeah, sorry, the Zercher. Is that
Yeah. 40.
440 pounds?
Yeah.
That's crazy, yeah. And I imagine that the Zercher squat is considerably harder than a regular back squat.
It's harder in the sense that, I mean, you're holding the bar in your elbows, trying to keep your forearms up while the bar wants to roll forward. And I squat really deep. I'm about 6'5", so there's about a foot from the bottom of my squat to parallel that I have to get through before my hamstrings are engaged again. So it's real tough for me, but that's also where I'm going to be loading stones from. So it's good for me to practice that. And then with the pressing, like the incline bench or the push pressing, the reason I pick those is because in the sport, you're not really going to be having any benefit trying to strict press something up. You're just going to be wasting energy. And if you're going for max reps in a minute, you don't want to waste time trying to be a badass by strict pressing something unless your strict press is amazing. So push press kind of combines the hip power of a jerk with some of the strength of a strict press as the reps get going and you get more tired. And
Yeah. Yeah, that makes. I've done some push pressing, and yeah, you can throw up a lot more weight when you get that leg drive in there, and then kind of push to the top. Especially helps with that first half range of motion, getting it up over your head. Definitely. And then I guess the incline, because I guess in strongman when you're pressing, usually you're pressing stuff overhead or at a strong incline as opposed to doing stuff like flat bench or dips. It doesn't really apply in the context of strongman.
yeah, and the funny thing about bench is most benching is a real tricep focused movement, whereas most of the pressing that we do loads more of the front delts, especially with the log, because of the way the wrists are turned and where the elbows are. So the nice thing about incline bench is it kind of combines overhead pressing with flat benching. This overhead press will make your bench go up, but not necessarily vice versa. But incline bench will kind of help both. So my coach, Alana Casey, greatest woman in the world, she's been programming a lot of benches where I bring the bar down to about an inch off my chest and pause for a couple seconds and press from there. Because like with the log, your hands are not on your chest like they would be with a bench. They're kind of up higher, so you're pressing from a dead stop. And that has really helped my press, because my press is notoriously terrible in relation to my other strongman lifts. So the pause incline bench is real good. You might get some internet hate for not touching your chest, but anything that's not a strongman event for me is an accessory lift, so it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, and I imagine it's harder to pause it for a second an inch above your chest than to bring it all the way down and tap and go.
Definitely. And you'll find that by doing that, it makes touching and going way easier. So if you're competing in powerlifting, you need to train to your chest, pausing on your chest. But for me, squatting, deadlifting with a regular bar, bench pressing, all that stuff is just an accessory lift. So I can play around with it however I want.
So
Right.
actually on that, like, so when you're training with lifts like that, pressing from an inch off your chest, for example, like how heavy do you go when you're actually training those?
It depends on the day. As we get closer to competitions, I'll do fewer sets and fewer reps, but more weights. Right now, I'm just actually trying to lose some belly fat, so I'm not really training for a show right now. I'm just kind of trying to build up my static lifts because my moving events are great. I'm very, very fast. I can say that confidently that I'm very fast. I used to be a long-distance swimmer when I was about 100 pounds lighter competitively, so I think I've carried over some of that cardio, but my static lifts definitely leave something to be desired. So right now I'm building those up.
Awesome.
Right, and just then, and like just bringing up the whole pause and lift thing. That's a cool thing that anyone listening can incorporate into their training. because I've been doing I myself I do a lot of incline pressing in my training. I like it to build some great pressing strength and build up the upper chest, as well as the front delts. But sometimes when you do the same lift for several weeks, it starts to plateau, and you need to find a different variation to do to keep things going. And so yeah, I might just start doing the pause, the 1-inch pause, and I probably will have to go quite a bit lighter, drop 10, 15 pounds and work on that. Because you even mentioned that when you went back to like the touch and go kind of thing all the way down and just bring it straight back up, it actually feels a lot easier.
Yeah, because you can't really lower a 1 inch off your chest pause incline quickly because there's no bounce, so you have to lower it real slow. I actually watch the bar as I lower it. I don't really do that for normal benching, but when I'm pausing off the chest, I lower it and watch it, and I feel like my face is going to split sideways, but that works real well for me because I don't want to touch the chest at all, so I like to fall with my eyes.
Right.
And as far as the plateauing, I really only max out when my coach tells me to, which is not very often.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll typically do something like 3 sets of 8, 4 sets of 7, 4 sets of 5, like 3 sets of 3, decreasing the sets and the reps and increasing the weight. And if we do that as we get closer to a show, we'll kind of increase the light hypertrophy movements like single leg dumbbell lunges or what else? 100 push-ups, 900-pound sled pulls, stuff like that. Stuff that's like a nice finisher at the end of the workout.
Okay, so yeah, so you're with your training essentially you're adjusting the set and rep schemes to kind of keep to avoid any plateaus, keep progressing. And you mentioned that you drop the sets and reps and go to heavier loads as you get closer to the show.
Mm-hmm. It's called peaking. You're trying to peak, like
Okay.
reaching the climax, and then at the show you explode, basically. I'd like to talk a little bit about plateauing just for a second, just for the listeners out there.
Yeah, for sure.
I do not think, unless you have set some national or world records, that you should use the word plateau.
Mm-hmm.
If you're training for like less than 8 years and your deadlift is maybe 750, you're probably not plateauing. You're just not doing the right things. I have people come to me who, like women, some women who say, I've been doing CrossFit for 3 years and I squatted 200 about 12 months ago, but I think I've plateaued. 200 is not a plateau. That's kind of below the threshold for what a woman's minimum squat should be, which is about 225. So when people say that, it typically means to me that they're playing hot potato with their programming and, oh, look at this article, it says this. Oh, wait, this video says I should do this. And they try to take advice from everybody, and they end up getting nowhere. So for anybody out there who thinks they're plateauing, but they're not setting records, you're probably not plateauing. You should probably work with someone who can just tell you what to do. Because having someone tell you what to do who knows what they're doing, I think, is the best way to get better. Because if you want to be a competitive athlete, you don't really get extra points for doing things on your own if someone can help you win. So that's my thoughts on plateauing.
Right, and that's very well said. And one of the things that I commonly see is beginners or even intermediate lifters or people that just are still far away from getting to some solid advanced lifts. They kind of gravitate towards very advanced programs way too early, and they would make much more rapid increases if they just focused on the basics and kept things simple, and then didn't really make any changes until really they needed them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, people look at. Do you guys know who Klokov is? Most people know who he is by now.
No.
Okay. Well. All right. Why not name somebody that you know, somebody big that you're familiar with.
In strongman or powerlifting or
any sport, even bodybuilding, somebody that you know.
Well, in bodybuilding, Ronnie
Priest.
Coleman's the big name, but I'm very familiar with like the West Side Barbell, Louis Simmons,
Okay.
Joe DeFranco, those strength lifters. and then there's the Mario Pudinovsky.
Okay, let's pick him.
Yeah.
Pudzianowski. Let's say a new person sees his videos and sees his training log and wants to follow it. Well, why would you follow an elite person's program when you have skipped the 20 plus years he's taken to get there? So that's the big disconnect people have. Oh, it's the Pudzianowski workout. I'll do that and then I'll look like him. Well, no, you need to put in all of the beginner training that he had to go to get to that point. So I think that's the difference between people who want to be good and want to get good. People who want to get good realize the journey it's going to take. People who want to be good just want to be good right now, and they will probably never be good because they can't have it right now. They probably won't stick with it. I've met some people like that.
Honestly, didn't I haven't actually checked out the program, but I think like on bodybuilding.com they put out like Arnold's like Ironman workout. Like is that I haven't checked it out, so I don't know if it's like who they cater it towards or if it's or what, but I would imagine some people see that and they're like, I'm gonna start doing that when they're, clearly not even halfway to that level yet.
Yeah, like the old 300 workout.
Yeah.
The thing about that is these people don't just do one workout. They do tons of different training, and fitness magazines just kind of like to time when someone's movie is coming out with putting that actor on the cover and kind of just making a workout that they think is good and putting it in the magazine. But you can't just do one workout. And I'm not saying you need to do muscle confusion because that's not real, but the guys that did the 300 movie didn't just do this one workout and that was it over and over. They did tons of different stuff. That workout was just kind of their final tester finisher. So that's again why I say to work with a coach, because I think the majority of people do not know how to write their own programming. They know what they want to do and what they don't want to do, and usually they stick with the things they enjoy doing, which means they don't get better at what they're bad at.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I mean, just talking to just this conversation just reminded me of in my gym, there's a lot of athletes that come to work out, high school athletes that are still quite weak, still bench pressing a plate aside, and I see them working with these trainers here, and the trainers again getting them to do like band presses and stuff, and it's like, dude, like these guys will get stronger just lifting. Like they don't need to use bands and chains right now. They have hundreds of pounds to add before they get to that point.
Yeah, I absolutely second that. I see a lot of that, especially because of the internet. Internet's a great tool to get info, but on the flip side, I think it's why so many people have trouble getting stronger now is because there's so many information sources. Westside says to use bands and chains, blah, blah, blah. Really, I think a new person could blow their nose and get stronger because they're so new, and that's the great thing about being new. So let's say you squat 300 pounds and you're having trouble adding weight to that. Some people would say, oh, just add bands and chains for resistance. Well, bands and chains, in my opinion, are only useful, or not only useful, majorly useful for lifters who aren't squatting to full depth. Because for a raw lifter who squats to full depth, the lift is usually lost in the hole. Whereas with bands and chains, the lift gets harder about halfway up the top, which is where a geared lifter's bottom squat would be, which is about halfway down. And if you don't believe me, you can just go look at their videos. They're pretty well known for half squats. So that's where the bands and chains come into benefit, because that's the bottom of their lift. So a new lifter who's having trouble lifting more weight on their squat would benefit more from adding more plates to the bar instead of bands. You don't need bands, you just need more plates on the bar, or do things like pause squats. If you lose the squat in the hole, the place to work on would be the hole. That's what she said.
It was an opening. You had to do it.
He had to. Yeah, no, that wouldn't be. That wasn't the first time that we had a That's What She Said on the podcast.
For
Oh,
record.
the hole was open, so I had to fill it. I'm sorry.
um, and so then for people listening right now that that they're starting to realize, hey, they just need to focus on a simple routine where they can just start progressively adding weight. Is there a workout that you recommend for people to start with, or a certain style of training, and like what constitutes a good workout for someone that just needs to add some strength to their their core movements?
Well, I know I say people need to get stronger, but on the flip side, there are some people who think all you need to do is squat, bench, and deadlift, and you'll get stronger. People like Mark Ripito say that, something like that. But those people will notice as their lifting career goes on that if you neglect some bodybuilding movements, whatever your weaknesses are now, they might get stronger, but they will still be your weaknesses when you're stronger. So we have some good free programs on the site people can download. But I think a good beginner program incorporates deadlifting, squatting, cleaning, incline benching, pull-ups, anything to make your triceps and delts stronger, because that's going to make your pressing stronger. A lot of low back work. People really shy away from low back stuff. I think they think the low back is made out of glass. Anytime I do a deadlift, people tell me something's going to shoot out of my spine. And remarkably, it never does, because my lower back is very strong. It's a large muscle area that you can build up. So really focusing on increasing lower back and upper back strength, hip strength, squatting to good depth, even if it means taking weight off the bar. Because if you can squat 500 pounds 5 inches down, who cares? It doesn't matter. That's like doing a curtsy. So squatting to depth, front squats are really good as well for your quads. So stuff like that. Compound movements also combined with hypertrophy movements, because you can't neglect those.
Okay, nice. Yeah, so I mean, imagine you have some good free workouts on your site. So that's liftbigeatbig.com, and yeah, you brought up squats, deadlifts, cleans, incline presses, and let's talk about what are your favorite low back movements. Obviously, you're hitting low back with deadlifts, but there are other stuff that you like to do and supplement with.
Yeah, seated good mornings are really good for low back. Straight leg deficit deadlifts are my. What's up?
Oh, sorry. Okay. So you said seated good mornings. I've never heard of that exercise. I mean, I'm aware of the standing good mornings, but so how do you do seated good mornings? Are you just sitting on a bench and then kind of coming forward to until your chest gets close to your knees?
Yeah. So what you basically do is sit on the end of a bench or on the middle of a bench, and you get your feet real wide, and you actively push your knees so they stay over your feet. I like to put the bar in more of a low bar position, because when you're dipping down that low with high bar, your neck is basically the fulcrum for the weight. And I did a 135-pound good morning once, and I was basically holding the bar up with my neck like an idiot, and it just felt like my neck and the back of my head turned into a sheet of metal, and I couldn't move it for a couple of days. So, hey kids, use low bar. But anyway, put the bar on your back, big chest, just like with the good morning. Try to keep that lower back arched, and you're just lowering yourself as low as you comfortably can. And once you start to feel a bit of pull on your lower back, you bring yourself back up. So it's not something you want to start out very heavy on, and you won't. I don't really feel it during the movement, but the next day, I definitely feel it.
Interesting. That's for me. That's like power cleans. I don't really feel power cleans in my traps when I do them, but the next couple days, my traps are fried.
Definitely.
And so, seated good mornings, is that something? What rep range do you typically like to do that in, or does it vary? Is it better suited for higher reps, or?
Yeah, so hypertrophy movements, even stuff like curls, shouldn't really be done for anything less than 8 reps. Those little tiny muscles, they need lots of focused direct work. So maxing out a curl, not really a good way to build muscle. Seated good morning, I typically do 3 reps or 3 sets of 6 to 10 reps. And
Mhm.
it doesn't need to be heavy. I only do like 230 pounds, and that's plenty when you're
Okay.
doing higher reps. It's not really about the weight so much as focusing on doing the movement perfectly.
Hmm. And then
And I say,
sorry,
can
go
I just,
ahead.
I'll
Yeah.
just say one thing. I say perfectly for hypertrophy movements. I don't believe in perfect form for compound lifts because everyone is built differently. But for bodybuilding stuff, the focus on form is very important because if you do it incorrectly, you're not going to be targeting the muscle you want. So that's the difference between lifting and bodybuilding. Is lifting is about maximal weight. Bodybuilding is about doing a perfect rep to target a specific muscle.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
That's a good important distinction. And I guess that's one contributor why strength lifters are a lot stronger than. Well, I mean, there's other reasons come into play, but I mean, yeah, when a bodybuilder's doing a bench press, he's just trying to get that maximal contraction, whereas a power lifter is trying to set a PR generally. Um, and so you also mentioned deficit straight leg deadlift. So is that where you're standing on like a 4-inch box, and then the bar is essentially at like the same level as your shoes at the start of the rep?
Yeah, so I typically stand on like a 2 or 4 inch box, anything to just help me get a little more range of motion without the plates touching the ground. Uh, I'll typically do 460 to 500 pounds on these, deadlift it up. I'll use straps or I'll do mixed grip. Deadlift it up, and the goal here is a very slow descent, keeping the legs as straight as you can. Um, I bring the bar as literally as low as I can without touching the ground. So
Mhm.
towards the bottom, my knees will bend a little bit, but the goal is to sit back on the heels. If your toes come up a little bit, that means you're really sitting back, and that's good. So it's a slow descent and then a very fast ascent. And the hard part, like with the incline pause bench, is you're under constant load the whole time. So you're bringing the bar down and you're deadlifting it um, while the bar is still traveling down. So when it's very heavy, it's very difficult to do, but it is my absolute all-time favorite deadlift assistance exercise for low back, upper back, hamstrings, calves, forearms if you're doing mixed grip. So I have some videos of that I can send you a link of if you like.
Yeah, we can add them. We can add some of these lifts to the show notes or to the the to the yeah, the show notes. And so there's a ton of like really like ton of posterior work, posterior chain, low back, and obviously with a lot of those movements you're going to hit some core. But do you do any is there any need to do any direct ab work? Or are you getting enough of that from like squats and deadlifts and some of these lifts?
Yeah, so like I was saying earlier, some body parts you need to really train directly. Yes, squatting builds up your abs, but again, you're typically not squatting for sets of 15 or 10 or 20. So yes, they get work on squats and deadlifts, but the rep range isn't really there. So I do a lot of pause things. Pause things change the game for any lift. So I'll do pause GHD sit-ups. I'll do half the stuff I don't even know the name for. I don't know if it has a name, but I'll basically sit on the ground with my hands at my sides and my legs completely straight, and I will just raise my feet a couple, maybe like 6 inches off the ground and back down to get my abs. I'll do strict toes to bar. I'll do something like 100 sit-ups, hugging a 25-pound plate to my chest, stuff like that.
Yeah, and even that one exercise you mentioned where you bring your feet about 6 inches off the ground, you're lying down. Like, believe it or not, when people do that exercise correctly, a lot of people can't do it because they can't keep the low back on the ground. And having that low back on the ground helps bring in the lower abs, to put the stress where it should be. And so something as simple as that, like a lot of people don't have that enough lower ab strength to do it.
Yeah, and actually the variation I do, I'm sitting upright while my hands are at my sides. So that makes it even, in my opinion, it makes it even more difficult. It changes it from kind of like a flutter kick thing to sitting, vertical torso, legs completely straight, using all of your Jedi mind power to raise your feet without pushing off the ground with your hands.
So
So,
so your upper back is kind of off. You're kind of crunching forward a little bit while you do it. So your upper back is off the ground. Is that what you
let
mean?
me let me sit on the ground right now and try it. So, yeah, my back is not. I'm not really leaning forward at all. In fact, I'm kind of leaning back, and I just have 5 hands or 5 fingers touching the ground, but I'm not really pushing off the ground with my hands at all. So if you guys want, you could just try it right now. It's it's nice for people that maybe get a butt rash
Actually,
from doing sit-ups.
yeah, I'm gonna have.
Yeah, I feel my abs well engaged. Anyone listening right now, you can go ahead and you can try it as well, and be part of this situation. Tom is trying it right now. Tom is trying it.
I got to give credit to Jace. He told me this. He's one of my athletes. Um, he's got one of the 2 best pair of abs on the team. He knows what he's talking about.
Okay. No,
It's shockingly harder than you would think it is.
yeah, because it sounded really easy, and I'm like, wait, no, when this is done correctly, it actually it's a strong activation. So do you just do that body weight for just high reps, or do you ever add any ankle weights, or how do you usually program it?
I might throw a 10-pound rubber bumper plate on my ankles.
Hmm.
Another thing is to not let your feet touch the ground, so staying under tension the whole time is a really good benefit.
Okay, it's nice. We got a little bit of time left, so I guess we'll talk a little bit about nutrition as we finish off here. And your site is Lift Big, Eat Big, and so let's talk about eating to support training, support muscle mass, and just put on size without turning it while still while putting on mostly muscle. In other words,
You mean not getting fat?
not getting fat. Yeah.
I think the big disconnect people have with the site is they think we're just a bunch of fat guys who, like being fat. That's not really the case. I've gained about 110 pounds in the past few years, and you can't really gain that much weight without getting some fat on there. So right now, I'm working on losing a little bit of my belly fat, and really the majority of my clients are women who want to lose weight while still getting stronger. So we definitely know how to lose fat while putting on muscle and getting stronger. It's just that takes more time than if you were to just eat a lot and not worry about how you look while you get strong. So there's 2 ways to do it. It's just bulk hard and keep your shirt on and don't look in the mirror too often for a couple of months, or you can take Matt Mill's approach, which he's a pro strongman. He looks like a bodybuilder. He writes a lot of articles for our site, and he's on our team.
What's his name?
His name is Matt Mill. He owns Lightning Fist Fitness in South Windsor, Connecticut. Probably the best gym in the world that I've seen. He actually just wrote an article for our site, liftbigeatbig.com, about how to bulk without gaining any fat.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows how to do it. He weighs 265 normally, and he cut down to 231 pounds in about 2 months. And I don't know where that weight came from, because he already didn't have any fat on him. But yeah, he's a pro strongman. He deadlifted 850 at that weight at a show. So he definitely knows how to get stronger while keeping body fat down. And really, whether you're gaining weight or losing weight, the magic ingredients are basically meat, rice, and vegetables in different quantities based on what your goals are. But there's just something magical about that combination for people. It really is, I think, the best formula, whether you want to lose weight or gain it. I had a woman who lost about 130 pounds over a year and a half eating that way. And I don't mean brown rice and chicken breast. I mean like ground beef, soy sauce, white rice, potatoes, dairy products, things like that. We don't really do the brown rice thing.
Yeah, and those foods that you mentioned are all very satiating, like meats and veggies, potatoes, rice. Like it's gonna fill you up nicely. Um,
Yeah, we like white rice because brown rice is really heavy. It's very fibrous. It makes me feel sluggish when I eat it, whereas white rice, I can just eat that forever. It goes with any sort of sauce. You can change it from like a Chinese meal to a Mexican meal with just a couple different spices. So it's very versatile and it's very cheap. It's the perfect bulking food.
right, and you know, there's some speculation or belief that like a lot of brown rice has anti-nutrients, which can reduce certain vitamin and mineral absorption of certain vitamins and minerals, even protein. And so, I mean, some people consider white rice to be even healthier, believe it or not, than brown rice. Funny enough,
Mm-hmm.
and white rice is easier to digest, like you kind of mentioned. And so, what are your which are your favorite protein sources? You mentioned, I think, ground beef. Um, what else do you like to go with?
I'm a little bit different in that respect. Um, I, I like rare meats like guinea pig or alpaca or venison or stuff like that. I kind of grew up in the mountains, so I'm used to gamey meat. So if I really had to pick, it would be venison. But usually it's ground beef or ribeye steaks or chicken drumsticks. I really like dark chicken meat. Chicken breast is the most, well, besides tilapia, for me, it's the most plain tasting protein source there is.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Uh,
I'll eat those meats, and then I'll kind of supplement with our True Nutrition protein. They're our supplement sponsor and partner.
and that's protein supplements, or
Yeah, well, it's a real unique one. That's why I picked them. I don't like to partner with people that I don't use myself. So it's basically a website where you make your own protein. You choose all the ingredients that go in it, the percentages that go in it. So let's say you can't eat dairy, so you can do beef protein isolate, and you can add in maybe 80% protein, 5% waxy maize, digestive enzymes, even the flavor, and you can choose the bag it comes in, and it's about $10 a pound. So very hard to beat that.
yeah,
Oh, wow. It's hard to beat that with, I mean, like anything store bought, let alone
Yeah,
being able to customize it.
yeah.
even Costco stuff, $50, it's still about $10 more for a 5 pound bag. So it's a really good deal.
Wow.
What's
Where
this?
and
What's the site called again?
It's called TrueNutrition.com. There's a link on the website that goes to our official mix.
Okay, cool.
oh, that's awesome.
I
That's
think you can get a discount with LBEB5. That's our code.
okay, sweet. And you know what? We're just wrapping up here, so just to finish off, Brandon, like what kind of stuff do you have going on right now? And if people want to check you out, do you do coaching? Do you have any programs? What do you have?
It's actually a big time for us right now. I think this will probably come out after the site comes out, but we're about to drop the new website, which is so awesome for me. It's just I've had the old website for about 3 years, so this new one completely changes everything about how it looks, how it runs. There's going to be forums. There's going to be video exercise encyclopedias. We just moved to a new gym, so we're going to be doing our own fitness classes and strongman clinics a couple times a month. Um, let's see, we've got 3 new training manuals out now. We have a strongman one. We have a deadlift one that is basically designed to get your deadlift up. The guy that wrote it went from 545 to 715 in about 16 months, so he knows his shit. And then we have a real good manual for cross folk out there who want to get stronger but don't want to stop doing their metcons. So it's just a real good way to increase your metcon time or decrease your metcon times and increase your strength on all of the various CrossFit lifts.
That's
Awesome.
awesome.
Yeah,
And so,
that's about it, but it's a pretty exciting time for us.
yeah, congratulations. And so people, anyone listening, you guys can go over to liftbigeatbig.com. Very simple URL to remember. And that was Brandon Morrison. Thanks again so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
It's been fun, man. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, take care.